Hello, Grumpy Old Fart here. I keep having to say this, so I'm going to say it one more time. About a month and a half ago or whatever, something back then, the U.S. Navy announced that UFOs are indeed real. Go back and check out my video, UFOs Evidently, and it'll explain it all in there. Now, because of that, because of this announcement by the Navy, I'm going back and doing a lot of videos on UFOs. And some of my videos are kind of stark. They're not real. I try to keep them short. You know, I don't want to. I want to keep people informed, but at the same time, I don't want to spend hours talking about the same subject. So I'm trying to give you the basic information, and then you can go and do your own research. Well, doing your own research means reading. So I've got a reading list here. If you want to find out more about these UFOs, historical stuff, and other information, stuff I'm not giving you, I've compiled a short reading list here that you might find informative. Ready? Here we go. We're starting with the granddaddy of them all. Eric von Daniken wrote a book called Chariots of the Gods. If you've not read that book, your jaw will drop. It's a wonderful book. They've got a video on, they made from that book. It's on YouTube. It's called Chariots of the Gods. Eric von Daniken is credited for starting the ancient alien craze, where people are, they've got a long-running TV series about it. It was supposed to be a short series. Turns out there's so much information, they keep adding more to it, and they're, I think, like 12 or 13 seasons so far at least. And it's still going strong. There's no sign of running out of information. The story behind Eric von Daniken was he was in a religious school. I want to say it was a Catholic school. And he was reading in all these ancient Hebrew texts about the alien, or not alien, but the angels coming down to visit, and they were using craft, chariots, things like that. And he asked a question of one of his instructors, and this is my understanding. The question he asked was something like, "Well, what does God need with a spaceship?" And so he got in trouble. So what he did is later on he left, and he went around the world and he's exploring mythology and ancient religions. And he's finding out that a lot of these ancient religions have a lot of the same basis in. If you take a modern UFO report, UFO abduction or whatever, and then you take these ancient writings of how the people were taken up into the sky and could see the earth and whatever, they're very similar. You know, and he is right in one aspect. What does an all-encompassing and all-powerful God need with a spaceship? One of the Star Trek movies. What does God need with a starship? You see what I'm saying? So anyway, that's a really good book called Chariots of the Gods. Check it out. It's really good. Next book, UFOs. Generals, Pilots, and Government Officials Go on the Record by Leslie Kean. Really good book. I've heard nothing but good about that. I've not had a chance to read it, but I've heard about it, and it's really good. It details the Chicago O'Hare incident. And I did a video on that. Go back and check it out. Inside the Black Vault by John Greenwald Jr. Project Blue Book by Brad Steiger. I have read that one. It's quite good. The Big Book of UFO Facts, Figures, and Truth by Stephen Spignacy and William J. Burns. That one is chock full of information. It reads kind of like not quite like an encyclopedia, but pretty close. I mean, the people who did this book, these guys, they did a lot of research. So that's a good one to read. Strange Craft by John Guerra. G-U-E-R-R-A, Guerra. The Legacy of 1952 by Dr. Bruce Maccabee, excuse me. He's a PhD. This one is about what happened after the UFOs buzzed the White House. I did a video on that. Go check it out. The CIA UFO Papers by Dan Wright. UFOs Today by Irina McCannon Scott. McCannon. McCannon Scott. Should have just printed this out. I can't read my own damn writing. UFOs and Nukes by Robert Lambert Hastings. I've done a number of videos on how UFOs interact and affect our nuclear stockpiles. Go back and check those videos out, and then get that book. The Hynek Report, the Hynek UFO Report by J. Allen Hynek and Paul Hynek. J. Allen Hynek was the director of Project Blue Book, and he started out as a skeptic. And over the course of his investigations, he changed his mind, and he actually believes UFOs could be real. So check that book out. Schoolyard UFO Encounters by Preston Dennett. I have done a number of videos on UFOs seen at or around schools. There was one in Africa. There was one in Australia. I mean, apparently they're prevalent, because if I'm not mistaken, this guy lists 100 of them. So keep that in mind. If you're a fan of science fiction, ready? The Real Cowboys and Aliens, Early American UFOs by Noel Torres and John LeMay. Undersea UFO Bases by Preston Dennett. And here's one that might interest everybody out there. Close Encounters of the Fatal Kind, where UFOs have killed people, by Nick Redfern. Nick Redfern does a lot of late night talk radio and things like that. He's on Coast to Coast a lot. Things like that. Confession by Robert Hastings and Dr. Bob Jacobs. Bob Jacobs, if I'm not mistaken, is the guy who got the... He was in the Air Force, and his job was to film missile tests, and he got the film footage of the UFO that's flying, and the missile flying, and the UFO goes around it shooting beams of light at it, and the missile falls out of the sky. If I'm not mistaken, it's the same guy. It might not be, but I believe it is. The next one, Unacknowledged by Stephen M. Greer. Stephen Greer does the Disclosure Project. A lot of his other stuff I'm not happy with, but the Disclosure Project makes a lot of sense. Okay, he's got a lot of people with source information from the government and from the military. These are people we trust with our national defense. These are people we trust with nuclear weapons. They can't be crazy. I'm just saying. Another one. I own this book. Crash at Corona. Very, very good book by Don Berliner and Stanton T. Friedman. Stanton Friedman is a big name in UFO circles. Just, you know. And I've got that book, Crash at Corona. It's very, very good. If you haven't read it, get it and read it. I highly recommend it. And here is the last book. It's very, very important. Vimanas and the Wars of the Gods by Enrico Baccarini. Now, for those of you who are unaware, in the Hindu religion, the Hindu philosophy and Hindu history, they have these objects called Vimanas, and what they call Vimanas, you and I would call spaceships. They have diagrams of these spaceships, Vimanas, and they talk about these Vimanas in the air fighting with what you and I would probably describe nuclear weaponry. These Hindu texts that describe this are thousands of years old. Yeah. So that would be something interesting to read. So yeah, pick up some of these books. If there's anything on this list that you thought you might enjoy, pick it up. I highly recommend Chariots of the Gods, the Schoolyard UFO Encounters, Close Encounters of the Fatal Kind, Crash at Corona, and Vimanas and the Wars of the Gods. I highly recommend those 5. The rest of them I really haven't read that well. I haven't read them at all, but the information descriptions look like they would be pertinent to what we discuss here, or what I discuss here. And if you're watching these, you're obviously interested. So anyway, that's a suggested reading list. I hope it helps you guys out. and gives you a little bit more information as to what we're talking about. Because if the Navy says these things are real, and they did, maybe we need to be better informed. You folks have a good day. God bless one and all.